Okay, doke. We are live on both platforms, both Instagram and YouTube. So welcome back, you guys, to our daily live feed. As you're getting logged on, as always, if you'd like to come work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you have to go. We do hair, makeup, suits and posing, all the fun stuff when it comes to competing for women. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. Last night I was having issues with turning my live feed off. Tonight, I think we're good. Turning on, at least. Welcome, you guys. Got a bunch of you here on Instagram, a few over on YouTube. Welcome, guys. Hope everybody had a fantastic day today. Wednesdays are one of my busiest days of the week. And as we're waiting for everybody on here, this weekend is the Virginia Classic, NPC Virginia Classic. So if you are going to be there, if you're doing your hair and makeup, then you already have your schedules. You're ready and set to go. Hello from Denver. What's up? Welcome to our feed tonight. I am starving, and I just ate right before this, so still hungry. Always hungry. I don't think that's going to change for the next few weeks. Yes, go all of your clients. Love it. Okay, just a little bit longer, and then we're going to get into tonight's topic, which is social media is ruining first-time competitors. This has many prongs. This particular topic. I wish you were coming to Greater New York. Yeah, I don't go up to New York shows much. Mostly Virginia or South. Mostly, or actually, we do go up to Pennsylvania quite a bit. Pittsburgh, there's quite a few shows up there, so we do go to Pittsburgh quite a bit. Yes, can we hear about this one? Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this topic and how social media is ruining first-time competitors. And this is a few fold over because it's something that myself as a posing coach, it's something that I'm having to deal with quite a bit now. It was never quite so prominent before. But the issue with first-time competitors now is that a lot of things are very accessible on social media now. Meaning almost every single pro show now is being live streamed. There's video of every competitor at every show. That was not the case even a couple of years ago. Once this whole pandemic thing started, that's when promoters started doing live streams. That's when video became almost essential, right? But the issue is that the majority of that's being shown on social media is pros. It's not NPC, it's pros. We do see NPC up, but what's being featured are the pros, which is understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is that first-time competitors see that and think they have to look like that, think that they have to do the things that the pros do. And it's affecting a couple of things. It's affecting how they're trying to present themselves, and it's also affecting their mindset on their own physiques. We're going to start on the physiques part first, and then we'll go into the presentation aspect of it. Every girl that I work with now thinks that they're not good enough to get on stage. Guilty, yeah, right there. We got a guilty already. Every girl that I work with thinks they're not good enough to get on stage because they're watching pros. Newsflash, as a first-time competitor, you're not going to look like a pro. It's not going to happen, right? I was telling that to Amanda the other day. I was like, how many amateurs do you follow? She said none. And I was like, you follow all pros and compare. Yep. Absolutely. 100%. So as a first-time competitor, you start psyching yourself out because you don't look like the pros. Now, I use this analogy all the time. As a first-time competitor, you are Pee-wee football. You would never expect a Pee-wee football player to perform how an NFL football player performs. You would never expect that. But you as a competitor are on social media over here thinking you got to perform like a pro that's on the Olympia or the Arnold stage. And you never even stepped on stage before in your life. You realize in order to get to the Olympia or the Arnold, you have to have been competing for a little while. You have to have been on stage for a little while, right? Not good enough to, not big enough, not smooth, endless thoughts. Yes, on point. Yes, absolutely. So I'm finding just through posing sessions when I'm talking to girls, more and more girls feel like they are not capable of doing this. They're not able to get on stage. They're not ready to get on stage. And it's just like, or they're not confident about getting on stage and things like that. And I have to really reiterate that you are not a pro and you're not expected to look or perform like a pro, right? If you are competing for the first time, before you compete, go watch a local show. There's tons of them. Go watch a local show and go see the competitors that are at the local show. I promise you, it is not as intimidating as watching pros on social media. It is not. Guys, if I had Instagram and MySpace, well, we had MySpace back then. That's what I meant to say. All we had was MySpace back when I started. Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff, YouTube. If we had all of that back when I first started competing 13 years ago, I never would have gotten on stage because I would have thought I sucked. I got on stage my first show and thought I was the shit. I'd only prepped for 6 weeks and I thought I was amazing. I thought nobody could tell me nothing. Like I was on point. I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, like what was I thinking, right? But I didn't have anything to reference. I had bodybuilding.com and I had MySpace. There was nothing on MySpace. Nobody was doing that. It was the very first year that I started competing was the very first year of bikini. I started a figure, right? Yep, you shared that knowledge with me during one of our sessions. I definitely needed to hear that during the session for the season of my Prep Straight Facts. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it can be a very big mental mind fuck. It just can be if all you're doing is following pros. So I really highly encourage you, if you are a newer competitor, you need to go to some local shows and see what the local shows are, what the competitors look like at local shows, because I promise you it is very, very different. Very different, right? What's up? Hi. Saying hi over on YouTube. Hi. So it is very, very different when you're walking into a local show versus one of these big shows. And, you know, a lot of times what competitors will do to get introduced into the sport is they go to the Arnold or they go to the Olympia and they want to be on those stages, which is great, but you're not going to start there. You're not going to start there. Nobody starts there, right? You start in your own backyard and you start around competitors who are new, okay? So that's the first way that social media is really ruining first-time competitors. Now, the second way is the presentation aspect of it, okay? I get competitors, and this is really frustrating for me as a posing coach, and many of you girls work with me, and you know, I told you this. You don't perform the same way that a pro performs. Your routine is entirely different in the NPC versus the IFBB. And NPC girls now want to have the fluidity and the sass and everything of a Laura Lee or a Maureen or, you know, or a Jasmine or whatever. They want to pose like those top pros. You are not a top pro. You are an NPC competitor. What matters most is that you nail your front and your back pose and you don't drop your glutes in the transitions. That's it. That's it. This is what happens to 9 out of 10 first-time competitors that come to me for posing. We'll do our first session, right? We'll do our first session. You come to me, you don't really know anything. So we start off, we find your poses for you. We may, if we have time, get you through your transitions, but most of the time we don't. Most of the time we're just working on actually getting you into your poses for the first time. Then you come back to me for your second session a couple weeks later. And on your own, You've gone through and created your transitions, your hand movements, your hair flips, your all this stuff all by yourself, and it all sucks. All of it. Even the poses suck. Not just the transitions, not just the hair flips and the hand movements, but the poses suck. Guys, you got to crawl before you run. You got to crawl before you run. If all I give you during your posing session is your poses, that's all you should be working on. Do not jump ahead. Do not jump ahead. Because what happens is you lose the fundamentals. You lose track of the fundamentals. You lose your poses completely. This is why I'm starting from scratch with you, LOL, as an Olympia qualified pro, right? There you go. You start from scratch, but that's smart. You start from scratch, right, Devin? I'm sure you feel this with the posing clients that come to you as well. You know, going into wellness, I have girls that come to me for wellness and all of a sudden they want to pose like Eurishna. I'm like, dude, you are not Eurishna. We got to just get your poses down first. Crawl. Yes. Crawl, walk, run. Yes. Take your time. Take your time. We'll get there. We will get to flow. We will get to personality. We will get to all of those things. But you have to have your poses first. You have to have your poses first. The judges could care less if you do a hair flip on that stage as an NPC competitor. They don't even care if you do it as an IFBB competitor. They want to see strong poses. They want to see a strong physique. That's where your focus should be. That's where your focus should be. And not to mention, a lot of times what happens is, okay, we've done that first session. So the girl thinks that she's good. You know what I mean? She's going to move on and start doing some more stuff. And she'll start going and watching YouTube videos. And she'll start posing like some pro on YouTube or something like that from 5 years ago. It's not the same posing 5 years ago that it is today. It's not. All of the divisions have changed. Every single one of them in 5 years. It's not the same thing. Remember, you're judged during comparisons. Mandatories are key. Absolutely. That's why you start early with the posing coach. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, you know, you do start early, but again, you go slow, step by step. It's no different from the process of prep. You don't start where you end. Trust the process, do the work, do as your coach says. Absolutely. 100%. I always liken this to doing dance lessons, you know, dance classes. When you first walk into a dance studio, you're not going to start doing the freaking samba right away. You know what I mean? They're going to give you dance steps first. You've got to hit the steps first, right? Then you start to learn how to move your hips. Then you start to learn how to walk and twist and turn and move your hands and those kinds of things, right? I can't tell you how many girls have come to me after a couple of sessions and they're like, oh, I got my whole routine. I got my walk. I got everything. I'm like, I just got to show you so that you can make sure we're good. And I look at them and I say, okay, we're going to start over. And you know what? This was not a problem up until this year. I'm going to be honest. Like, it wasn't a problem up until this year because I believe what has happened is now all of these shows are covering the pros so much. We have Instagram so much. We have amazing videographers now shooting this stuff. And girls are watching that thinking that's what they got to do. I see you, Rex Arms. I see you. And that is not it. It's not it. It's not it. And Andrea, this is a good point right here. We just had a posing session today with Andrea. She is qualified for the Fitness Olympia. And she mentioned herself today that she'll go on and watch these other girls that are also in fitness and everything. Like, oh, I love that pose. I'm going to do it. And it looks like crap on her because it's not her body that's doing that pose, right? It's the other girl. So same scenario here. You cannot do it that way. You have to have somebody who has an eye for the sport and understands what they're looking at and what the judges are looking at, right? I had this conversation earlier today. I had this conversation earlier today with one of the girls that watches our BSPNs all the time with the show reviews. The best thing I ever did for myself in this sport was retire for 4 years. That was the best thing I ever did. You know why? Because I started looking at it as a coach and not a competitor. Prior to the last 4 years, I was always, yes, I was a posing coach, but I was also prepping myself to get on stage. And so I saw it from a competitive standpoint versus a coaching standpoint. When I got myself completely out of competing myself, all of a sudden things got a whole lot clearer. Things got a whole lot clearer for me. And I was like, oh, this makes a whole lot more sense. I could see things better. I watch things from the judge's standpoint, you know, and I go to shows. This is the other thing too, guys. Like I've talked about this on our BSPNs as well. If I didn't get a live stream, it's really, really hard for me to actually critique anybody. And if the live stream isn't very good, really, really hard for me to critique anybody. Can't judge a show from photos. I can give some thoughts. You can't judge a show from photos, right? If I'm in person, that is the best way for me to actually judge a show and get critiques. That's why I go to shows all the time. And that's why when I'm at shows working with clients, I'm there watching the whole time. Ask them. I'm in the front row from the start to finish. Right? I do that on purpose because I want to bring that visual knowledge back to my clients. You cannot get that same thing as a competitor on social media. Can't do it. Can't do it. It's not the same thing at all. Right? And you got to understand what you're looking at. Hey, what's up? So that's the ways, some of the ways, there's lots of other ways too, that social media is actually ruining first-time competitors. So again, going back to, and as I'm kind of recapping this, if you guys can think of any other ways that you think that social media is actually hurting competitors, tell me. Go ahead, type it in the comments, okay? But like I was saying, social media makes competing very intimidating for first-time competitors. They feel like they have to look like top pros. You do not have to look like top pros. You'll get there eventually. But remember, it usually takes those pros years and years to look like that. It doesn't happen their first show. Does not happen their first show. Right? So you are not expected to look like that. You are a Pee Wee football player. You are not NFL. Okay? The second way the social media is ruining competitors, first-time competitors, is they think they can learn everything from social media. They think they can learn all of the poses from social media. Not only that, but that goes across the board. They think they can train themselves and diet themselves from YouTube videos, stuff like that. I get this in my inbox all the time on my personal Instagram. People ask me for glute programs, things like that all the time in my personal Instagram. I tell them every time, I am not a coach. I am not a trainer. I do not do programs. That's not what I do. And it doesn't matter what I do because I'm built differently than you. And that's why you need to hire a coach. I'm 5'9", you guys. My legs make up 62% of my body. I have to lift my legs and glutes differently than somebody that is 5'5", that is the average bikini competitor. I don't activate my glutes the same way that somebody who's half my size would activate their glutes. So whatever I do is not going to help you. It's just not. It actually might hurt you. Right? You cannot create a program for yourself in social media. Can't do it. Can't do it. There is a plethora of information out there in social media land. Tons of it. I give it to you guys free every night, right here, like we're doing right now. But it's general. It's not specific to you. And this sport is very specific. This sport is very specific to you. That's why you need people coaching you in all aspects of it. Right? Preach, Team Tall, we're built different. We sure are. Sure are. Like I tell people all the time, I do hip thrusts for my glute days all the time, but they are light. And most of the time they're not full motion, full range of motion, because otherwise they go into my legs because I have long ass legs. If I want to stay inside my glutes, I got to do it differently. I got to squeeze differently. Now, if you're 5 foot tall and you're a little shorty, you probably can push a hell of a lot more weight than I can with a hell of a lot more movement. I can't do that or I'm going to hit my quads. Period. Right? Yep, sure do. Absolutely. Right? Right? Exactly. So, you got to know your frame. You got to know your body. You got to know all those kinds of things. And if you don't, that's why you need a coach. That's why you need a coach. Also, my diet, same thing when we're talking about diets. My diet's not going to be the same thing as you. I'm a big girl. Tell people all the time, I'm a big bitch. I'm a big bitch. I eat a lot of food. If you're 5 foot tall, you're going to be eating half what I eat. That's just facts, So understand that social media can give you a baseline, can give you something to expect, and give you something that you can say, okay, I understand what's going to go on. I get a general idea, but I need somebody to guide me specifically. Right? And often the things on social media aren't totally reflective of what they're doing. Absolutely. I also feel like social media can make a lot of first time or second guess their protocol, almost like the too many cooks in the kitchen concept. Yeah, absolutely. If she's doing that, why am I not doing that? If she's doing no cardio, why do I have to do cardio? Why do I have to do cardio if she doesn't have to do cardio? She's eating 2,000 calories. I'm eating 1,200. Why am I eating 1,200 and she's eating 2,000? Please stop asking for someone else's diet. That's annoying. Yeah, right there. That right there. It's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for you. I do get annoyed sometimes with that. I'll be honest, because I get it a lot. Girls ask me what I'm eating and stuff like that. I'm like, whatever the hell I feel like it, I'm on macros. I stick to a certain macro, and that's it. Done. Right? Yes, to both of them. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. So that is absolutely is another way that social media can be a problem. Right? Again, use social media as a guide to show you like a bit of expectation, but understand where you are and what is actually expected of you. So if you are in the NPC, if you are first time or that kind of thing, you are not expected to be like a pro. That is not expected of you. Right? Yes, for macros, right? Yes. I know, right? But yeah, just because I work, and that's the other thing too, like, how are you eating so much? I'm like, well, I worked for a year and a half to build my metabolism up and build my muscle up so that I could eat more. Didn't happen overnight. I didn't start dieting on this amount of calories and things like that overnight. It took me a year and a half to get there. It could take you longer. Right? What else? Do you guys have anything else that you would like to add as far as how social media is ruining first-time competitors? I'll give you another one too. First-time competitors, you're not going to go pro in one show. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Set realistic expectations for yourself when it comes to the road to pro. Some people can get there really fast. Some people do. Some people absolutely do. But they put work in behind the scenes before they ever got on stage. It took me 3 years. I had a goal of 6. It took me 3. Expectations. Yep, we said expectations. Age difference is 2. Comparing myself as a 50-year-old newbie to that 25-year-old pro. Absolutely. That's a big one. I work with a ton of master's ladies. I think you're phenomenal. I'm technically master's age myself. So I get it. I understand. But when you are in your 50s, you are not the same as a 25-year-old. You're not. And you shouldn't be upset about that either. Right? As a 50-year-old getting on stage, you look phenomenal for any age. Right? Be proud of that. Don't try to be a 25-year-old. Be the best 50-year-old competitor that you can be. Right? True. And you should be my trainer. I am not a trainer. My coach makes my plan specific to my physique and our plan. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. I have zero desire to train anybody. None. Zero. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. As a 50-year-old competitor, you need to have realistic expectations of where you are and what you can achieve. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You are not 25, and by God, you should not want to be 25. I am 40, and I would never want to go back to where I was when I was 25 years old. I am so happy to be 40. I have learned so much since I was 25. I do not want to go back. Be happy about where you are. Be happy about the person that you've become and how you're challenging yourself now. Right? And every year they're coming up with new stuff for Masters too. Like they're having the Masters Olympia now too. So be excited about that kind of stuff. Right? What else? Anything else? You guys got anything else for me that we haven't covered? Where social media can ruin your expectations or ruin first-time competitors? These are good. You guys are on point. I think social media makes girls feel like they have to be perfect and give up everything in their lives to compete. It can just be a hobby. You don't have to pursue a pro card. 100%. Absolutely. I've given up nothing to compete. You should still have a social life. Yeah, you can't go out and drink when you're in prep like you would if you were not in prep. But you still go out. If you don't have a personality without a couple of drinks, then you need to find a personality. Right? I'm not a first-time competitor, but I'm going to my pro debut in a week. So I'm trying not to look at social media for mental health. No, that's absolutely true too. Expectations. Again, we talked about this before, expectations. You're coming out for your pro debut. Just so you know, as a pro for your pro debut, you have zero expectations put on you from anybody else. So don't put them on yourself, right? Don't put them on yourself because you had, like, this is a freebie. You can do whatever the hell you want your pro debut. If it goes great, fantastic. If it goes like shit, who cares? It's your pro debut. You're allowed. Same thing with me. You know, I'm coming back to the stage for the first time after 4 years, right? So I have some expectations for myself that I want to hit, and I know what they are. Nobody else does. I know what they are, but they are not overblown expectations that I know I'm going to fall flat on my face for, right? Isn't that good? But it's true though, like going back to the if you want to compete as a hobby, it is a hobby for everyone. Even top pros don't make money off competing. It helps to build their brand outside of the stage, but literally no one makes their living just competing. Literally no one. They compete, and then if they're like a top pro and they're like a male open bodybuilder or something, they have sponsors and they work for those sponsors. That's how they make their money. They don't make their money on stage. Nobody does. Not one single person makes their money on stage. Nobody. It's how they take what they do on stage and create a brand from it to monetize that they can make some money from it. Right? It is always going to be just a hobby. Always. Always. So don't give up your family. Don't give up your career. Don't give up your anything like that is very essential in your life to get on stage. There is a fine line between dedication, discipline, and pushing through obstacles and going overboard. There's a fine line. I actually mentioned that this morning in my Instagram post. I said, what are you willing to do to win? And that was not a post to say that you should do anything. That's not what that post was. If you read the post, I actually said before you ever compete, you should sit down and write down what you are willing to do in order to win and what you're not. before you ever decide to compete. Because once you get into the thick of things, it's real easy to go past those lines if you don't have lines drawn. Real easy to get caught up. Real easy to get caught up. Like, oh, I already went this far. I might as well go that far. Well, I already did this. I might as well just go one step further. Well, I already did that. I might as well go one step further, right? Write those things down before you ever decide to do the sport. Because it can go sideways real quick, right? Know what you're willing to do to win. Know when you have to pull the plug. And the other aspect of that with the social media thing is, I know a lot of you guys think that everybody cares what you're doing on social media. They don't. If you decided to delete your Instagram or something like that and just never go back on, nobody would care. Nobody would care. Your friends and family would be like, where'd you go? And then they move on with their lives. Everybody will move on with their lives. If you disappear off of social media, nobody's going to care. They may notice you're gone. Be like, oh, I wonder what happened to that one chick that was prepping for that one show. Like, oh, I got to go make dinner. Telling you they don't care. So if you think that their expectation of you is a big deal, then you need to live up to their expectations. Get that out of your head. They don't give a shit. Nobody does. You worry about you. You put your expectations on yourself, and you go as hard as you can towards what you want, and don't give a flying rat's ass what anybody else thinks, because they don't care. They don't care. So don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. One day they're your biggest fan, and then the next day they don't even know that you exist. So, anything else? This was good, guys. Good additions to the thought process here. This is what I like to do on our lives, you guys. I like to get your input and everything too. This is not just me talking. This is me having a conversation with you, right? Speaking to my soul. Good. That's the whole goal here, you guys. You know, this can be a lonely sport. It can be really hard to navigate sometimes. And that's what I'm trying to help with a little bit, bring you all together a little bit, right? I just love that. What are you willing to do to win? Thinking about that from the aspect of time, money, energy, etc., and making sure it aligns to your values. Absolutely. That's right. That's a big deal that you just said there too, your values. Make sure you got your values in check. Your values are important. Just because somebody else is willing to go further than you are, doesn't mean you have to. Right? Doesn't mean you have to. And again, that's why you put that in writing before you ever decide to do the sport. Slippery slope, you guys. Slippery slope. All right. Well, that was good. Thank you guys for your input. I appreciate that. PDs and no PDs both still require work and consistency with meals, training, sleep, etc. Yeah, sure do. That's right. So with that, I hope you guys had a great Wednesday. Keep forgetting what day of the week it is, by the way. Part of prep. Forget where I am, what I'm doing. I have no idea. I don't know if we have any pro shows this weekend. I haven't looked to see if there's pro lists or not. But if there are, then we will go ahead and we will do previews tomorrow. Girl Pros next weekend. What's this weekend? I know we got NPC shows this weekend. I don't know if we got any pro shows. Anyway, I'll pay attention to that and see if that's what's going on. That's what we'll do tomorrow night. And then Friday we will have Max Muscle, so the Virginia Classic. So I will not be on Friday. But I'll be getting lots of footage so that we can put together some new videos for Bikini Girl and Bodybuilding World for that series. All right. So if you want to work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you have to go. We do hair, makeup, suits, and posing. That is what we do. And we'll be back here again live tomorrow night, 8:15, same time, same place on Instagram and on YouTube. And if you have not subscribed to YouTube yet, please do. We are growing, so that's good. Keep going. Let's keep growing. Keep growing, keep going. All right. Have a great night, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye. There we go.